Well, for months now, Democratic voters have been growing lukewarm on Joe Biden, and Donald Trump is trouncing him in poll after poll. According to a new Bloomberg News and Morning Consult poll, Biden is trailing Trump in all 7 swing states. Joining me now to discuss for our weekly United States panel is author and former analyst at the Defence Intelligence Agency, Paul Monk, and US political commentator, Laurie Laird. Welcome to you both. Laurie, what do you make of this speculation now that Joe Biden actually won't end up being the Democratic nominee?
I think it is exactly that, speculation. I do think we have to think, look, we are looking at a rerun of Trump-Biden. That's what the polls say is going to happen. It's likely to happen. I think you are right to bring up the question. It's a minority thing, but it's possible that neither of these men's names will be on the ballot. But at this point, it is simply speculation. And I think there are many, many interesting things to say about that rematch.
Paul, there are concerns about Joe Biden's age. There's also anger at the inflation crisis in the United States, enormous anger about the immigration crisis on the border. Do you think the Democratic Party is now sufficiently panicked to try and find an alternative? I mean, we even saw Michelle Obama's name mentioned this week.
Yeah, you did
yes,
indeed.
And
I guess
to be honest,
Go ahead, Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
I would hope that the Democratic Party doesn't panic, but they need to get their thinking caps on. There are advantages to incumbency, and they need to exercise those advantages, or this is going to get away from them. I think it's a very interesting, point in the campaign. And if the Democratic Party doesn't get its act together, Donald Trump's going to win.
Laurie, what's your view on these reports first broken by the New York Post that Michelle Obama is considering a run? Do you think this is credible? Do you think this could unfold?
I suspect it will not unfold. And at this point, I don't know how she could be brought into the process. But I think, again, we need to look at it. Paul said things that are very interesting. If you look at Joe Biden campaigned on a number of things, and he achieved those things. He said he was going to do a couple of things legislatively. He got that legislation through. Now, that should be a metric on which people evaluate the president. People are not evaluating the president on that. His approval ratings are very, very low. Economically, he was doing very, very poorly, despite the fact that the economic numbers in the U.S. look very good. This is very interesting. What are Americans basing their choices on? They say that that the economy and immigration are their big issues, and Joe Biden is doing very, very poorly on those. However, I do not see Michelle Obama coming in on that.
Well, there's a wide range of issues where a lot of Americans don't feel that Biden has delivered, even Democrats, and that's part of the reason why Trump is doing so well, despite all the criminal and civil cases that are being thrown at him. Now, let's have a look at the executives of Twitter, now known as X, TikTok, Snapchat, Meta, and Discord. They were subject to a grilling by US senators today on online child safety. They're being pushed on what they're actually doing to stop the exploitation of children online. Have a quick look at how that unfolded.
Let me ask you, how many times was this warning screen displayed?
I don't know, but the
you don't know. Why don't you know?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. But
well, you know what, Mr. Zuckerberg? It's interesting you say you don't know it off the top of your head, because I asked it in June of 2023 in an oversight letter, and your company refused to answer.
No one should have to go through the things that your families have suffered. And this is why we invested so much and are going to continue doing industry-leading efforts to make sure that no one has to go through the types of things that your families have had to suffer.
Paul, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg there trying to, in a way, apologise to families whose children had fallen victim to exploitation online. Do you think that the answers they gave, the evidence that they gave was adequate? Do you think they're doing enough here in this space?
I think they're in a very difficult space, to be honest, Sharri, because the whole business model on which the new tech platforms were built has caused a number of unanticipated consequences, which many people now regard as harmful. So how you change the business model and shift those parameters is not immediately obvious. And I think this needs to be a constructive dialogue rather than an antagonistic attack on the corporations. After all, other corporations have had to adjust their safety standards, their product lines, etc. This is not altogether unusual, and the rate of innovation has been frantic. So there's a lot of careful thinking here to be done rather than antagonism, I would like to think.
Look, Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley is taking a swipe at both Biden and Trump over their age, their mental capacity, and she's got a new electoral ad where she calls them grumpy old men. She's reportedly planning to release videos to go along with this photograph with ads under the titles Stumbling Seniors Basement Buddies. This is according to the New York Times. Look, this is quite funny. Look, Laurie, clearly she's trying to use her age. I think she's around 50 years old, so a good 30 years younger than either Trump or Biden. So she's trying to pitch her youth, her energy as a way to win votes. She's still a solid way behind Donald Trump. I hear from sources close to the campaign that there's a lot of criticism about how she's been running it. She doesn't have a slogan. No one actually knows what she stands for. What do you think about how Nikki Haley's doing?
And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because Nikki Haley is running a campaign, and I don't think we will be talking about Nikki Haley for that much longer. I suspect she will not make it until the 24th of February, which is when the voting goes to her home state of South Carolina. I don't think she will have the funding to get that far. However, you hit it on the head. She is campaigning on the fact that she is 30 years younger than or 27 years younger than Donald Trump. Grumpy old men. That's cute. It's sweet. What does that tell us about Nikki Haley, the candidate? How would she do things differently? I'm getting frustrated about a campaign that is only to do with age. What does Nikki Haley have that somebody else doesn't have? We don't know that. What does she have to offer us in policy? We know nothing about that. However, I don't think we'll be talking about Nikki Haley that much longer.
Look, there's a lot to admire about her and how far she's come, Paul. I mean, it's quite remarkable. She is the last one standing. As she says herself, her polling was 2% around a year ago or at the start of the race. But it doesn't seem like she will be able to in any way catch up to Donald Trump.
No, I wouldn't expect she will. I think... Sorry,
go ahead again, Paul Monk.
I wouldn't expect her to overtake Donald Trump, and I'm not certain at this stage that she expects to do that. I think she's seeking to position herself within the political spectrum more broadly and differentiate herself from Donald Trump. It'll be interesting to see whether that turns out to be her strategy or whether she just bombs out and disappears. But more broadly, it seems to me the problem on both sides of politics in the US has been the paucity of inspiring or really credible candidates. That's what worries me. And Nikki Haley is the last flare among, non-Trump Republicans. But, Biden has been left in place. The party machine seems to have thought, well, we've got him through one term, we'll get him through another. There doesn't seem to have been any serious consideration as, does he have the legs to do a second round? And it's probably too late now to change, because it will make him a lame duck president for the rest of the year. That's not a good way to go into a crucial election.
It's going to be so important to see who his VP pick is, because, you never wish ill on anyone, but the American public will be thinking, if something does happen to Biden, if he gets into the White House, who is going to lead the country? Laurie Laird, Paul Monk, thank you both so much for your time.